Hey YouTube, I'm finally back with a new video. It's been a while. This time I wanted to do some fake shadows, isometric shadows. Since isometric is 2D, it's difficult to do proper lighting and shadows. You can add 2D lights and light occluders, but I find the shadows are really smooth and it's difficult to get angles like these. So doing it this way makes it look a lot more realistic. I've also added a day-night cycle using a canvas modulate. There are a lot more things I could do with this, but at that point I'm not sure if it's worth it. I think doing it this quick and easy way is good, and if you add all the extras like shadows at night, maybe changing the alpha values so the shadows are much lighter under moonlight, that kind of thing. You could even redraw your textures to have lighting on different parts of them as the light moves, but that would be so much work, and in that case you could probably just go 3D. Okay, so let's start here in this empty project, well, relatively empty. All I've done is added a tile set and just some code to quit when I press escape. The tile set that I'm using I got from itch, thanks to Make Animus, a free tile set. Really nice. The tree is included in the sprite sheet. I've actually just cut it out and made a separate texture file with that, and that's about all I've done really. So back in our project, first things first, let's create a new scene, just a 2D scene. This will be our tree, so we can call it that. And we'll add a sprite 2D. Let's just call that the tree sprite. And I have already got my tree here, so I'll just drag that in. And there it is. Very simply, we'll add another sprite 2D, and that'll be for our tree shadow. I have not yet made a shadow, but we can do that in whatever photo editor you like. I'll use Sprite, so I'll go over there right now. Okay, so over here in Sprite I have my tree texture. Notice that it is 92 pixels wide by 128 high. The height is going to be a little important later. For now, let's just save this as a new file, and we'll save it as the tree shadow. And we shall select everything. The sprite's got a few little holes, so I'll just hold shift and select those as well. Then I will invert my selection, and let me just erase this. And let's fill it with a nice black color. I've set mine to hue 0, saturation 0, because I don't want it to have any color. Value is just set to 20, and I've set the opacity, the alpha channel, to 180, so it's a little translucent. We'll just fill this, and what I'll do actually, let's select everything, and I'll flip it vertically because I want my shadow to be below the tree, and I'll move it up a bit because I don't want a gap between the tree and the shadow. And basically that's it. Can be a little shorter than the tree itself, that's fine. Okay, so let's add our shadow. Here it is here now. We'll put it here. One thing we do need to do is move it down, but before that, since the height is 128, I'll just show you what happens here. The skew value is what we're going to use to move our shadow around, and if we skew it, it skews from the center, which is not what we want. We want it to skew from here at the top, so we'll offset it by 64 pixels. Now we can see that the center is here. Let's move it down a bit as well, maybe about 60. can actually be a little higher, maybe 58. I can see that it's actually on top of the tree texture, which is not what we want. So let's enable Y sorting. I'm doing it on the base node as well as the two textures. And we'll set the shadow to be a layer lower. So let's just make it say -1. It's now underneath, which is fine. That's what we want. Sorry, if we skew the shadow now, we can see it moves from that point. It actually does look a bit odd where I have it right now. Maybe I should move it down just a little, back to 58, sorry. It should be okay. Let's save the scene. I'll just save it as tree, that's fine. Back in our level, we can now add our tree scene. Our shadow has disappeared under the tile set, so there's a problem there with my Y sort order. Let me actually move this then to 0, so it's on top, and we'll put our tree sprite on 1. And let's see, okay, there we go. That's what we want. This tile set, unfortunately, or fortunately, the artist has very nicely lit up or highlighted the side of the tree. So the sun technically should be coming from this side, and the shadow should probably be over here or even at the back. Depending on your texture, it might look a bit different. Of course, you might want the shadow in a different position. I'm just going to keep it at the bottom for now to keep things simple. And yeah, basically that's it really. We have a shadow and we can skew it. We can have multiple trees. On our scene, we could dump a bunch of them. And yeah, we could skew this texture, well, not the whole tree, sorry, but the shadow. We could skew that a bit. It hasn't updated here, sorry, I haven't saved it. And it does update all the trees. If you create a different asset, maybe another tree, you'd have to make sure you set the shadow to the exact same angle so that it looks like the sun is in the same spot. You don't want different objects with shadows at different angles, so that's a bit weird. I'm going to leave this at 0 for now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add this shadow to a group, and we shall call this shadow, and that should be fine. It's now a scene group. I'm not sure if that's going to be visible from other scenes, so I'm actually gonna change this to a global group rather. Can I edit this? Convert to global, there we go. So that should be visible from our main node here, and very simply we can adjust the angle in code, which is quite nice. One thing to note though is the skew function. Here it's set in degrees, but if you edit it in code, it actually takes radians, so we'll have to convert our degrees to radians in code, which is no problem. One thing that I particularly like is if we look at the tree shadow, it looks quite good straight on. It's not distorted too much, but the more we skew it, the more distorted it becomes. And at some point, it's just a line that doesn't quite look like it's on the ground. It's now sort of tilted up, which is weird. It's not what we want. So I'll just stick to, let's say, between roughly 60 degrees on this side and then minus 60 on that side, which is a range of 120 degrees, which is quite nice. I won't go further than that, so let's just set this back to 0 and go back to our level code. And let's see, we'll need a function to set the angle, and I actually want to base it on the time. So to do that, we'll actually need to store the system time in a few variables. So let's get time, and we'll have a variable for I want to convert the time to minutes for some reason, which I'll explain later. But what I'll do is I'll get the system time in our ready function. So let's set time to, have to recall what the function was. Give me a second. Okay, there we have it. It's an uppercase T, so time dot, and let's use get time dictionary from system, which will return a dictionary, hours, minutes, and seconds, I believe, which is nice. For our time and minutes, let's set this to, actually I'm going to make a few more variables here. Let's get one called hour and another one for minutes. Our hour will be the time that we just got. Sorry, it's a dictionary, so we can get the hour. And our minutes will be minutes. What I'll do actually is our time and minutes will be set to our hour times by 60 and just add our minutes. Let me just make sure this is calculated in the right order. Okay, so now we've got our time in minutes. I'll create another variable for shadows, so I'll just set it to null for now, so we'll know if there's something in there later. And when we set our shadow angle, we can get all of our shadows quite simply by using the getTree function. And we can get nodes in a group, and the group that we put them in is called shadow, if I remember correctly. It's going to get a bit confusing, sorry, so many similar names here. Okay, so that should now be full of our shadows, or null if there are no shadows in the tree. Now what we can do actually is iterate through all of them and set the angle actually, but we'll need to come up with an angle to set it to first of all. So let me think about this. I'm going to create some more variables. One for the hour, for the minute, and we'll combine them into a variable called new angle. That should be fine. So our hour angle will be equal to the hour that we got earlier from our system time. I've got a range of 120 degrees, so I guess I want to move it 10 degrees for each hour. I'm going to subtract 12 from here. The system time returns a 24-hour clock, but we want this in 12 hours, and I'm going to multiply this by -10. For our minutes, let's take degrees divided by 60, and we'll multiply this, the result of this, which I think is around 1.6 degrees a minute that it needs to move. We'll multiply that by our number of minutes that we have. Okay, let's see, the new angle, those two combined will be our hour angle minus our minute angle. and then that should give me, I'm just gonna set it now, so for each, actually let me just make sure if shadows is not null, then we'll iterate through them for each. For each one, let's set the I dot skew is equal to, and we'll have to pass our degree to this function, and that'll be our new angle. I'm just thinking now, why am I doing this in my ready function? Let me put it here, so make sure that these variables are all set before we actually try and call it, and we can just call that here then. Let's see if this works and doesn't crash. Invalid access to project key minutes. Oh, I think it's actually not called minutes, but minute in the dictionary. Oh, okay, there we go. And they are not set to 0. It is now around 5:20 p.m. where I am. So at 6 p.m. I want it to be on 60 degrees. Actually, let me just print this angle just so I can see what we've got. Print that to our console. 54, minus 54, so minus 60 would be the max, which it should hit at 6 p.m. So it looks like it's working as intended. Great. What we want to do next is, so the shadow now updates based on the time of day when the program is run, but we can actually change it dynamically with a timer. So we'll do that next. Let's add a timer. Since it's changing by this amount, 1.67 degrees every minute, let's update our timer each minute. So let's auto start this, set it to a wait time of 60 seconds. And when it times out, we'll need to update our shadow. I'm just trying to think now what I want to do on timeout. We'll have to recalculate our angle based on the new system times. I'm actually going to need to update all of this on the timer timeout. Now I could run it and wait a full minute and see what happens when the timer times out, but I'm actually just going to make things a bit easier for myself. Let's set it to 1 second. So it'll now call every second. The shadow should move pretty quickly. Of course. So what I've done actually is I'm not including seconds here. I'm only checking the minutes and the hour, and that's obviously not going to change until the system time changes by a minute. So that's no good. In that case, I'll need to update this differently. Instead of just getting the system time again, let's just go through our shadows. Oh, I should have actually included this check. We'll go through our shadows, and instead of doing that, let's set it to the current angle plus, no, it goes the other way, minus, and this will be this value, which is how much it should change every minute. There we go. I can see it moving. So normally it would move that much once a minute, but I've just set my timer to 1 second, so it's moving now every second. Let's keep this back at a minute. Okay, so we now have a dynamic shadow that moves based on system time. I guess there are a lot of things you could do. You could even set it to start at 60 degrees instead of at whatever your system time is. For me, that's now around here, minus 50 something. You could have it start at 60 and go to the end. You could even make it loop so that you've got a day-night cycle, which is something we can do next, and it'll be quite fun. To do that, actually, we'll need to use a canvas modulate so we can adjust the color of our scene. And to change that, we're going to use an animation player. Let's see, so our animation player is going to need a new animation. Let me just think how I did that. There we go. Let's call this our day-night cycle. And since we converted our hours and minutes to time in minutes, that means in one day there are 24 hours. 24 times 60 would give us a maximum of 1,440 minutes. Sorry, 1,440 minutes. Also, what that means is around 6 a.m. I guess will be my sunrise, and let's say 6 p.m. will be sunset. So 6 a.m. times 60, 360. Sunset 18 times 60 will give us, I think, 1,080 if I'm not mistaken. So we're going to use those values for our sunrise and sunset. To start off with, we're going to make our animation player modify the property of our canvas modulate, and we'll modify the color property. Let's see, we'll need some keys here. If it's nighttime, it should be kind of bluish. That's a bit too purple. Maybe bluish. That's very bright. Let's make it a bit darker. Okay. And that'll be at 0. We do have 1,440 to go through here. So let's add another key. And this will be, let's make this our sunrise. What color do we want? Maybe a sort of a bit green, a bit more orange, red. Okay, that looks good. And this will be, so our sunrise we want to be at 6 a.m. although I want 6 a.m. to be just plain white, so let's make this a bit earlier. Let's make this at 3:50. Well, it's going to shift between midnight and 6 a.m. very gradually. It's not quite what we want. We want our sunrise to be a bit shorter than that. So this was 3:50. Let's make that gap 10 minutes. So this will be 3:40. Looks like they're on top of each other. I'm just zoomed so far in. There's a gap here, and at 3:60 I want the sun to be fully up, so this will just be bright white. Duplicate that, and our day will last until 10:86 p.m. And let's take our sunset. I feel like I've messed that up somewhere. I have. I'm gonna have to adjust all of these again. And let's set our night back to the same color. The end will be at 1440. Right, let me set this to 1080. Let's make this 10 minutes later, so 1090, and then 1100. Sorry, I'll set these back. So we said this one was 360. And this one should be 350. And this one 340. Okay, so we've got all our colors set to correspond with different values here on our time, which is quite nice. And then we can actually set our scene to that color based on the time. So again, let's get our animation player and let's play our day-night cycle, and very simply we can just seek to the value that we want based on our time in minutes. Shouldn't actually look any different because only after 5 PM should it start getting darker. Let me just adjust this so we can see that it's working. Now it should be quite orange. There we go, that's our sunset. And if it were nighttime, it should be a kind of blue color. Wow, that is quite blue. Maybe I can adjust that a bit further. Interestingly, it took the highlights right off these trees, so that's cool. Yeah, let's just set those back to where they were. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, that's fine. Of course, if the time updates dynamically, then so should our color. So we'll need to change this based on the current minute. So I think, yeah, I am actually going to get this value again. And just set the color to whatever the time is corresponding with the system time here and this range that I've set up. And that's that. So if we sit in the game for a few hours, we should see it gradually shifting color, and the shadows should move from 6 AM in the morning here to 6 PM in the evening around here. I think I'll actually just accelerate things to test that. Let's see. So again, let's just set this back to a very low value. Let's say half a second. So the shadow should move pretty quickly. In fact, I'm going to make it even faster. 1/10 of a second. There we go. The color isn't changing yet because that's still set to the system time. So I could actually, instead of getting the time, I could get the value that it's on. And just add to it, which would work. Let me just check how I can do that. So I've just had a look at the official documentation, and it seems that I can get the current animation position, which should return the current position of the currently playing animation. So let's actually just comment this out for now, and let's make a variable for this. And let's just set that when our scene loads. Get called get current animation position. Didn't crash, so it seems to have worked. And let's now set this to let's update this every frame then, so sorry, every time this timer times out. So Just increase it by 1 each time. There we go. It seems to work. We haven't clamped our shadow to 60 degrees, so we could do that here. If it's, let's see, greater than -60. It's got to be passed to radians again. It takes a float. So if it's less than that, we can increase it. So now it should stop at 60 degrees. There we go. Stop moving. Nice. You could make it loop, of course. So if it were 60, then you could not sure it'll actually hit 60 now because I'm not increasing it. Hang on, I've come back to this the next day, and having slept on it, I'm going about this all wrong. I shouldn't be checking the angle to make it loop, I should just check the time of day, so time in minutes. So I think what we need to do here is another if block. If our time in minutes is greater than 1440, so if we've reached midnight and gone beyond that, then just set this back to 0, and in that case we can also set our shadows to 60, which is back on the left. That should work. Let's see. It's now around 10 AM, so the shadow's starting all the way here on the left. Let me just speed this up. Let's halve that. Sorry. What have I done? Okay. It's a bit better. Let's see what happens when it reaches the end. It should reset back to here and our day-night cycle should restart. It's a bit of a long wait because it's got to hit the end here, and we'll still have to wait for night to pass, which is another, what, from 6 PM until 6 AM, so another 12 hours. It's going to take quite a while. Maybe I should have halved this again. There's our sunset. We could probably fade out these shadows at night, or even have a nighttime, a moon shadow, perhaps on the other side, but much lighter, and just hide this one, and then re-enable this one in the morning and hide that one. That would be quite nice, actually. Quite a bit more work, but shouldn't be too hard. 12 hours is apparently quite a long time, even when sped up. Or it's not actually looping and I'm waiting for nothing. Give it another minute. I should have actually just displayed the time in minutes on the screen, so I can see what's happening. Okay, it seems to be taking very long. Perhaps it isn't looping. I'm going to go and check. Perhaps I need to make this greater than and equal to, because it's probably hitting this, and I'm not sure it's going beyond that. And yeah, maybe I should just add a little label just to see. Although we're going to have to put this, I guess we can put it in here. Our label dot, what is the property? Text. Let's just convert this to a string. Our time in minutes. Where's our label? Right in the middle. Doesn't actually seem to be updating. Maybe I need to put it in a process function. Let's see. So why is it starting at 6:11? Oh right, 10 AM. 10 times 6 is 10 times 60 is 600 plus 11. That's right, yeah. That's the current time. Ah. That's my mistake. I'm incrementing this value, not the time in minutes. So this is never actually going to... never actually going to increase. Silly me. There we go. Let's see what happens when it hits 1440. So around 1080 it should be sunset any second now. From now, roughly. Okay. Should go back to 0 once it hits 1440, and then it will be early morning in the game. There we go, it has reset, the shadows have reset. Strangely enough, I've changed it from a floating point number to an integer at some point when I switched it over, but that shouldn't matter anyway. And it should be sunrise. Oh, the canvas modulate didn't update. It's still stuck. It's a bit strange because this value definitely updated because we saw it. Perhaps I need to call play again. Should probably speed up this timer so I don't waste my time just staring at it. Let's make it really fast. Okay. That's better. I see what I've done. I've set my shadow back to 60 at midnight, not at 6 a.m. So that's the mistake there. So this actually, if this is equal to 360, no, minus 10, so 340, then we reset the shadows. And this should loop perfectly now. I think I fixed everything.